What's good in the hoodie YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing another video. Today, if you haven't already seen it, I did a non-spoilers review of the Captain America Civil War movie. If you haven't seen the movie, or if you're curious about it, and you want to see this and that, then move over to that video. But if you are here because you've seen the movie and you want to hear my insight and want to hear my opinions about the movie in more depth, then you've come to the right place. Obviously, I am wearing a Captain America t-shirt, representing that movie. It was really, really great. I enjoyed it a lot. You got so many characters in it. It's just unbelievable how many characters. You got a bunch of new characters, some old characters, some characters that haven't had representation in the past in the movieverse. I mean, you got friggin' Zemo. Like, that's pretty interesting. Zemo or whatever. And you got Crossbones. And Black Panther was pretty cool in this movie. I'm looking forward to when he finally gets his movie, which should come out eventually. That I really want to see, because he was a really cool character, Chadwick Boseman. Really, really cool. I also love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Really cool character. Obviously very, very young compared to most Spider-Mans have been, but it was done well. Also, his aunt, there was a whole entire joke with his aunt, which was very clever, because she was really young compared to most Aunt Mays. Usually Aunt May is meant to be an older woman. Like, if you've seen the original Spider-Man, she was no youngster. And the Amazing Spider-Man had her somewhere younger than that Aunt May, but older than this Aunt May. So it's interesting, because it's sort of like it's this regression. It's like the oldest one had the oldest versions of these characters, and the middle one had the middle age, and it's just kind of interesting. It's like this constant regression, I guess, in a way. I don't know. I kind of like it, but I am kind of curious at the same time. There's also obviously this connection with Iron Man and Spider-Man, which is very cool, and they are gonna build off of that in the actual Spider-Man Homecoming movie when they release that next year, which is very interesting to see that Robert Downey Jr. will be returning for that movie, and shows that they're trying to keep the continuity of this movie into that in some way, or something along those lines. So it should be pretty cool in that way. This movie also has a lot of interesting plot points. Obviously you have Zemo who's trying to take down an empire, but when he says an empire, he's not referring to the United States or the United Nations or any country. He's talking about the Avengers themselves, and that's why he's trying to attack them from the inside, meaning that he's trying to cause them to go into a war against each other and fight each other to the death until they collapse and fall apart. And that kind of also expands on that whole entire idea of how they were treated as vigilantes for murdering so many people, and so he kind of has that connection, and he feels those emotions and all that, which is interesting. Zemo was a very interesting character that, personally, I would say was done up really, really well, and a lot of characters were done really well in this, and a lot of characters were expanded upon, which was really nice. Look, I thought that a lot of things were done well. I thought, obviously there was that whole entire scenario with, the constant conflict about Iron Man, about Tony Stark's parents, and then eventually him finding out about how, Bucky ends up basically killing them in the end. It's pretty sad, and there's obviously that emotional toll that takes place, and it's pretty intense. There's also things like unknown powers coming out, like us seeing, Ant-Man turn to Giant Man for once, which is very cool, of course. The emotional toll on some of these aspects was very intense. You got things of all sorts going on. You got the Winter Soldiers, multiple of them, but those ones end up dying to prove a point. But it's just kind of interesting, and a lot of stuff happens. You got some interesting representation of the Scarlet Witch here, who keeps with that whole entire idea of feeling bad for what she had to do, for what she did as a villain in the past, which is very, very well done. You got Vision still expanding upon his story, which is great to see him, and he's a cool character. You got a lot of characters that were done well. Hawkeye came in late. Same with Ant-Man, but it was all done well. Spider-Man looked awesome like he did in the trailer, and I really love his look. I really love how he acts. He is young, but he's really cool. He's really fun, and Tom Holland did the job of being a really authentic and cool Spider-Man that really fits what he needs to do, and I personally enjoyed it a lot. I really felt like the movie did a lot of good. Obviously, one of the main characters that was missing from this movie that people will know is obviously the Hulk. Every other, all the major... the Hulk and Thor are the two major superheroes that were missing from this that are major, which, Thor... could be because they're trying to keep... could that mean something? Yes, it could theoretically mean that the next Thor movie might be taking... as far as timeline goes, that movie might have been taking place alongside this. If you were trying to map it out into a movie versus timeline, maybe that movie is occurring while this is going on and that's happening. Obviously, Ragnarok hasn't come out yet, so we don't know, and Ragnarok isn't supposed to come out this year, maybe next year. I thought it was next year or the following year, Thor's third movie, so that is something to note. Obviously, Iron Man's fourth movie was announced recently, which is very cool, and should be interesting to see what they do with him, since the third one came out quite some time ago now. It's pretty interesting to think about how long ago it was, so that's something. Obviously, Captain America, I'm sure we'll get a fourth movie at some point because, that franchise just does well. And, why stop a movie franchise that is successful? Obviously, the Avengers movie should be coming out before you know it, as well as the next Guardians movie, which we didn't see any representation of the Guardians, but a lot of these characters are planned to show up in the Avengers, and the Guardians are also planned to show up in the Avengers as well. So it's very cool because we're gonna see, because that movie's gonna be really crazy, because we're gonna have a lot of super. If you thought this movie had a lot of superheroes, that movie is going to have a ton of superheroes, because you got most of these characters plus the Guardians. It's a bunch of characters, and for all we know, there might be more Guardians during the second movie. Yeah, we might see a bunch more Guardians. Of the Guardians that we have 6 of them, right? I think that's right. Yeah, it's 5 or 6, whatever. The point being is that it's pretty crazy, and Marvel knows what they're doing with all this, and it's great. There were so many elements that were built in that were done well. So there was a long story set up. And obviously, there was the fight had to do with whether or not they stopped fighting or continue to act as they were. And obviously, Captain America was on the side of continuing to fight, while Iron Man was on the side of giving up and taking the short route out. But in the end, who wins? Everyone always keeps on saying with this, no one really wins. If you want to say it, you can, but I don't think so, because sure, they both have moments of victory in a way, but at the same time, they're really on the same side. They're really, they make a constant point of making it clear that they're friends. They like each other. They're not meant to be enemies. They're only doing this because they're antagonizing them and they don't have much choice in the matter. It's not that they actually hate them or something, it's that they, they need to stop them, they need to control them, and, there's that kind of stuff going on. I mean, Iron Man has to go out of his way with his team to stop Cap's team, and, they don't hate each other, but they need to stop each other, and then you end up finding out later on that, like, maybe Cap wasn't so off with his judgments. Also, obviously, at the end, for those that are wondering, obviously, the movie ends in an interesting way. Obviously, it hints at the Black Panther movie, which should be interesting to see. Obviously, Doctor Strange's trailer came out a couple weeks or about a month ago now, and that trailer looks good. I really love that trailer, and he should be really cool. Do I expect him to see him in the Marvel Avenger universe? Maybe. I don't think so, though. If they do, that's fine, but I feel like it's less likely. Obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. There was some great humor, and, a lot of story and a lot of stuff was built into this that, if you're a fan, you'll find enjoyable, and if you're not a fan, then you'll learn and you'll get a sense of it. And it's pretty easy humor to get into, and personally, I had a lot of fun watching it, and I think that if you're a Marvel fan, you'll want to see it at least once, if not twice. And if you're not, I would still recommend seeing it at least once, just so that you see it. Please understand, obviously, this is the third Captain America movie, but just because it's called the third Captain America movie doesn't mean that you can't watch. It doesn't mean that you won't be completely uninformed. It is one of the best things about Marvel is that they make movies where if you know the previous ones, then you'll have an easy time following it. But if you don't know the previous ones, you won't know as much, but you'll have a fair enough knowledge to be able to keep up with it and, obviously stay generally aware, I guess you could say. You'll know enough to get by. You'll know enough to get by. Does that mean you'll know everything? No. Not every character's name's mentioned. Not everything is mentioned. All the prior points aren't always mentioned. But there's a lot of information that is definitely there that if you're coming into it, seeing this for the first time, never seeing any other superhero movie for Marvel, you'll still have enough knowledge to be able to get a general sense and hopefully enjoy it. Believe me, it is not a movie where you have to know what happened before it. And that is one of the great things about it. It isn't like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This wasn't super long review, but overall I would say, it was a really good movie, and if you have the time, either this weekend or at some point, go out of your way, go watch it, have fun. It's not short, but it is fun to watch, and it should be good even if you're not a huge superhero fan. Go out of your way, just spend some time, maybe with a friend, maybe with some family, whatever works for you, and do all that. And again, I am Crazy Samurai 71. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, everyone, and I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye.